UNISA website that you have a recording as well as the presentation. So I will share both of that with you guys. So tonight we're looking at study unit 2. So study unit 2 is basically just the next step from what we covered last week. So last week we looked at ways that we classify data, um, types of variables, those kind of things. So into tonight's session, we're going to look at how we are visually representing the data. So basically, we're going to look at different ways of graphs, of interpretation, of viewing the data. So it it does link back from last week, and the biggest link nearly was this diagram that I showed to you guys last week about we've got data, we will classify it as qualitative data, um, but also categorical data versus quantitative data, which is about um, the quantity, numbers, those kind of things. So in representing the data, we can do it a few different ways. So we can have bar graphs, and bar graphs we will link to qualitative data. And the reason for that is because there's gaps between. So basically what the bar graph is going to tell us is if you have blue eyes, green eyes, gray eyes, brown eyes, there's there's no link between it. So you fall into one category and that is it. Where the one that looks very similar nearly is your histogram, but your histogram is telling you the same as the bar chart or the bar graph, but it's referencing quantitative data. And the reason for that is you can nearly look at this as a continuous or discrete way. So if we are going to classify you, it will be in groups on a numerical way. So it can be how far you have traveled the last month. So do you fall in the 0 to 199 kilometers class? Do you fall in the 200 to 399 class? So you can see the histogram forms nearly a continuous view. So um, if you're not in the one category, you fall into another one, and it all links together. So that's why your histogram is on quantitative, and your bar, because there's gaps, it is qualitative. So another way to look at qualitative data is, and they could have called that circle or pie chart. You can put that in a pie chart, because yellow can represent A, the pink can represent B. So again, you have a representation of categories. Then something interesting about what we have here, and this is a frequency table. So you can have a frequency table or frequency distribution with qualitative data, or you can have it with quantitative data. And I will show you an example of that as well. But if it is something, and let's see if I can make this a bit bigger. So here you can see it's something in years. So years will have some kind of quantity linked to it. So this will be more around the quantitative, and why it's important to always look at the categories that it is divided into, because one can start asking you questions around the category. So one of the questions could have been, how many people are younger than 51 years? Then you can say, okay, well, younger than 51, it's below 51, so it includes 1 to 15. But then one can say, okay, well, it is 19 people that are younger than 50. If this was qualitative data and it was A, B, C, D, E, you can't make the same assumption or question to say how many was smaller than C or something like that, because that doesn't make sense. So just important, when you guys get a frequency table, the first thing that you need to identify, is that frequency table quantitative or is that frequency table qualitative? So again, depending on which question we have in tonight's session, I will get you another question to just show when we do the recap of study units 1 to 3, another way of a frequency table if we don't cover both of them in tonight's session. Okay, so then we have a line graph. This is not something that you guys we will not see that a lot in our work, and you can see we don't really have a line graph in study unit 2. So this is not really something that we will cater for in this. Stem and leaf, we definitely will do. Stem and leaf is something that, again, is around, and if you just look at it, it is around discrete data. So if we look at where it is, a stem and leaf is part of one of those graphical methods. So stem and leaf is around quantitative data. We'll look at one or two examples of stem and leaf, but again, stem and leaf is also going to be used a lot in study unit 3, because they can ask you questions around the median, the mean, Q1, Q3, and all those kind of things that we will also do in study unit 3. So stem and leaf, again, is one of those that is sitting in study unit 2 and study unit 3. Line plot, again, not really, but you can see it's very similar to a stem and leaf. So you've got points, but it gives you less information than a stem and leaf. So here you only know that there is 2 points there, 2 points were free. Here you know a bit more of those points. But again, line plot, like line graphs, not something that you will see a lot in your study guide or in any of the assignments. And then another one that we will definitely cover in study unit 3 is the box and whisker. So again, we introduce it in study unit 2, But basically what the box and whisker is summarizing for you is what you will do in study unit 3. So the smallest point is your minimum. Let's just get a bit finer. So your lowest point is your minimum. So that we will do in study unit 3. Your highest point is your maximum. Then the start of that box will be quarter 1. Again, all in study unit 3. That end of that box is quarter 3. And the middle of that box is your median. Okay, so this is all of the box and whisker we will do in study unit 3. Okay, so it's being introduced in study unit 2, but we will go into much more finer detail of it in study unit 3. And stem and leaf, box and whisker, and frequency tables, those are nearly the 3 tables that they love to ask the most. So if you look at frequency, stem and leaf, box and whisker, that's the questions that will be the most asked in your mock assignment and in assignment 1. That's the ones that they love to ask the most. Okay, so what we also going to quickly show is just look at your frequency table. So when we have it as quantitative, then we've got, say in this example, age categories. So there are 2 people that are between 20 and 24 years old. There are 3 people that are between 25 and 29, 13 people that are between 30 and 34. So let's just look a bit at the other things. So that 2, 3, 13, the number of people that fall into each category, we also call the frequency. And so when we get something that's called the cumulative frequency, so all that does is to say the 2 plus whatever was in front, that is all the people that are younger than 24, so there's 2. All the people that are younger than 29, so that is 2 plus 3, which will give you 5. So there's 5 people that are 29 and younger. Then you will look at 5 plus 13, there's 18 people that are younger than or 34 and younger. And so we continue. So 18 plus 18 is 36 people that are 59 and younger. The reason why we do this is because sometimes, and I have a question like that, where they might ask you, okay, what's the frequency of 30 to 34? Then it is 13. What's the cumulative frequency of 30 to 34? Then it is 18. And depending on that, you can work out, firstly, a percentage of frequency. That is, or there it is, relative frequency. So that will be 2 divided by 50. 2 divided by 50 will give you that relative frequency. But you can also have a cumulative frequency. So let's look at verse 16. Well, sorry, 36. So that 36 is 18 divided by 50. Okay, so there might be questions where they ask you about cumulative frequency. Within the same question, they can ask you about relative frequency, and within the same question, they can ask you about percentage cumulative and just the frequency number. I think I have one of those in tonight's session, so we will definitely be looking at something like that. What I've added here for you, and I'm going to take this out because we have it here already, that we don't have too many of these, because again, some of this you guys are not. Wait, let's just do that. I just want to move all of that to the middle of. Okay. So very important frequency. In this instance, with a frequency table, we're looking at quantitative data. Hopefully there is one on qualitative data as well. So another way that they can ask it, it's more likely that it will be in assignments than in your exam papers, because it does take a lot of time. Sometimes is that they give you a bit of the data, and then they ask you how many classes are there, what's the width of a class, what's the class limit. So depending on how the question is phrased, you will nearly approach the question differently. If you look at places where they will give you the data and you need to work with it, that will be in your assignments. Again, assignments are timed way different from the exam. So in the exam, you will more likely get a table like this, most likely only 2 or 3 of the information, and they will ask things around that. So what I've seen that they ask the most is nearly, they give you age with those brackets or those different intervals, and then they give you cumulative frequency. So that you first need to work out what the frequency is before you get the cumulative. Okay, so just quickly a repeat of what cumulative frequency is. So cumulative frequency is basically to look at what is the sum up until a certain point. Okay, so up until age 24, there are 2 people. Okay, but let's look at up until age 44. So up until age 44, we would have needed to add all of those numbers together. So we would have needed to say, how many people are there up to 44? Well, it's the 2 that is there, it's the 3, the 13, the 18, and the 8. So if we add that, 2 plus 3 is 5, it's 18, 36, 44. So up until age 44, there are 44 people. So cumulative frequency is basically just at a certain point in that table, it just adds up what is everything up until that point. Okay, so if you are struggling a bit with the network, I am recording as well and will post recordings everywhere. Is somebody else also struggling with the network? If not, just show me a thumbs up. But Jane, it is being recorded, so it will be shared on our WhatsApp group and on the MyUnisa platform as well. Later tonight, the recording will be available. Okay, so let's then look at the different ways. So here you can see again a different way that they have structured. So now it's not in categories from 0 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39. Here they basically have done already for you a cumulative frequency. Okay, so here is everybody that's under 19. There's one of them. Everybody that's under 69, there's 76 of them. So a question that they can ask you is how many, and let's say this is students, how many students are there that has a score between 60 and 69? That can be a question. And you guys can put it in the chat. How many students are there that have scored between 60 and 69? I'll show you guys now how to work it out from the table. But let's quickly have what do you guys think? Okay, we've got one answer as far that says 20. Okay, any other takers? Any other different answers? Let's give it a minute or two. Ah. Perfect. Okay, so that was great. So basically 76 minus the 56 will give you the 20. Spot on. Okay, so this is more likely the type of frequency table that you guys will get in the exam. So I think this is really important that you guys see how to work out those numbers in between. But I have a question on that. So that nearly, if you look at what is the things that you guys need to know about this study unit, that's nearly the quick summary. So need to understand what is qualitative, need to understand how we will summarize visually what's quantitative, and then if we use a frequency table, how can we interpret it that way? Okay, so before we go into some of the questions, the recordings will be shared on the WhatsApp group and on MyUnisa. So let me just quickly share the WhatsApp group again. And the presentation will also be shared on both in MyUnisa and on the WhatsApp group as well. So if you're not on the WhatsApp group, please click on the link that will add you. And if that doesn't work, you can always send me a WhatsApp on 083-790-8387. Okay, so what I've also just added is a bit of a summary for you guys that you can also look at the summary. What normally helps me when I did this is if you have the summaries when you do the assignment and the mock exam, it's nice to have it with you. So if you can print it or if you have it on your PC, you have it available that you can look at it. Okay, so first question that we're gonna look at is a stem and leaf. So there's certain things again that we will cover in study unit 3, but what I've done in this one is a lot of these is not linked to study unit 3, but I'll show you another example that there are again things that can be included in a question like this. So what they could have asked in a question like this is, what is the range? They could have asked with a bit more of detail, but we will identify things that, like the mode, Q1, Q3, all of those things they could have asked out of this data set as well. So before we go into what they ask, things that we will be able to identify in study unit 3 is what's the minimum value. So the minimum value is 50. The maximum value is 92. So again, we'll do this in study unit 3, but then if we needed to work out a range, it would have been your maximum minus your minimum. So that would have been 42. But as I said, this we will cover in the next study unit. Okay, so but again, that is one of the things that they could add to a question like this. So let's look at what they're asking. Which one of the following statements is incorrect? So first thing, sample size. So let's count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. So that is correct. Just again be wary of by looking for the incorrect one. So again, be very careful in the exam that you don't see 7, say it's correct, and go to the next one. Approximately most of the students have distinctions. This question I normally don't like because firstly, what is a distinction? So normally one would assume, and I think in UNISA it's 75, but again, that's more likely I want them to tell me what's a distinction, but let's assume it's 75. So 50 is not 74, not 74, not 64 is, 76 is, 81 is, 9 is, 92 is, so there's 4 out of the 7. So 4 out of the 7 is more than 3 out of 7 that don't. So approximately most of the candidates have distinction is true. But again, I would love in that something like this in the exam actually tells you what number you're looking for. So is a distinction 80? Is it 75? Median is the one in the middle. So if we have 7 numbers, the median is the 4th number. So 76 is the median. So that is correct. The 5th exam score is 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5th exam score is 81. Okay, and not 1. So that is your incorrect one. And then you can see, if we look at the data, and if we audit the data, it would have been, the first one is 50, then 74, then 74, then 76, 81, 89, and 92. So that is also correct. So most is just more than. So yeah, so most is just more than. So if they set less than or the least, then it would have been everything below. So yeah, so most is just another word for more than. And I think in one of the sessions, I will also start including a table that we get to understand a lot of these. And my first language is not English, and I call it higher grade English, where they in questions throw in more than, least than, at most, at least, all those nearly kind of things that nearly wants to make you wonder. So I have a nice table that I will introduce in the next study unit that summarizes those things quite nicely. Okay, so that is the first one, looking at stem and leaf. So let's look at another question. And now, like I said last week as well, there I am going to throw in a few questions that is theory based, because I have seen that they do that in both assignments and in exams as well. So which one of the following statements, again, incorrect? The bar graph cannot be used for 2 categorical variables. Okay, that really is for me a question mark. Adjacent, sure. Okay, so now we're going into real theory. Adjacent rectangles in a histogram share a common side. Ugh, that is, so let's draw that. So all that they are referring to is adjacent rectangles in a histogram share a common side. That is that they're sharing. So yes, it's true. Okay, so adjacent just means next to each other. Thanks for that, because yeah, as I say, it's more the English that is trying to catch you out than anything else. Adjacent means next to one another, so that is correct. We're looking for the incorrect one. A stem and leaf plot provides sufficient information to determine whether this data set contains an outlier. So let's look at this. If this data set went on and there was a number 11, then you can see, well, stem and leaf here's most of my data. That's definitely an outlier there. So a stem and leaf can show you that you have an outlier in the data set. Okay, box plots display the center, spread, and outliers of a distribution. So box plot is exactly the same as this box and whisker plot. So that is what it does. So that's why it's also sometimes nice to have some of the summary slides next to you that you can really go back. A histogram is better than a box plot for evaluating the shape of a data set. Debatable, but you have more. Okay, so yes, you have more information in a histogram, because in your histogram, let's say that is the histogram, you'd know exactly how many are in each one of those buckets. Where in a box plot, if that was 1, and let's say that was 50, let's say that was 1 to 9, then 10 to 19, and so forth, all that you will have in a box plot is some form that you have lowest, the highest, Q1, the median, and Q3. In a histogram, you have much more information. So you know if that is going to be a higher area where you won't see that in a box plot. So a histogram does give you more information to evaluate the shape of a data set than a box plot. This we will also look at in study unit 3, because then we will look at skewness in data, left skewed, right skewed, positive, negative skewed. We will look at all of the skews also in study unit 3. So let's just go back to the one that is then incorrect. So option 1 is incorrect. So let's just, a bar graph cannot be used for 2 categorical variables. So you can. So you can have a bar chart that on this is just the number of, and then that can be one category, that can be another category. So you can have a bar chart, can be used for 2 categorical variables. It's not the best, but you can use it. So it is applicable. Okay, so let's go into another question that is frequency tables. It is looking here, they give us a class interval. It is the mass of 100 youngsters, so we know it's looking at kilograms of students, or and then we get a cumulative relative frequency of each. Okay, they tell us there are 100 students. So I think that's the first thing that I will look at is, okay, we've got 100 students. How is the frequency distributed? So up until the last one, we need to be 100. So 100 students have a weight of less than 89.5. Okay, but if you want to get the number for each of the cumulative frequencies, you will just multiply by 100. Okay, so whatever the sample size is, you will multiply it with the sample size to get what is that cumulative frequency. So the cumulative frequency for the first category, 19.5 to 29.5, would have been 4 students or 4 youngsters. So we're not going to do all of them. You only look at what is needed for all these questions. Okay, so which one is incorrect? And here was one of the interval 19.5 to 29.5 as 4 observations. Correct. We're looking for the incorrect one. So let's look at interval. They're asking now 49.5 to 59.5. Here it is. So let's multiply that. So cumulative, there are 60 students. And so let's just, the interval 49.5 to 59.5 as the largest number of observations. Okay, might not be right. So let's look at, so now you need to look at what was the cumulative for the previous one. And so now, unfortunately, we will need to fill in the rest. Now, that's not cool, but it's fine. So let's quickly do that. So that gives me 80. That gives me 94. Okay, so now we can see from 4 to 18, we added 12. From 18 to 35, we added 17. From 35 to 60, we added 25. From 60 to 80, we added 20. There we added, 14? And there we added 6. So the interval 49 to 59 has the largest number of observations. Okay, let's quickly go back and just back to that. So hopefully now move slides on your side. So we can see, yes, in that category, 25 was the biggest number of students or youngsters. So that is correct. Okay, the next biggest component was sitting in the 59.5 to 69.5, where there are 20 youngsters or 20 students. Okay, there are 35 youngsters having a mass of more than 49.5. So now again, let's throw in the English there. So if you look at 49.5 and more, because it's more than 49, well, there's, how many are there? There's 25 in that category. There's 20, 14, so it's definitely more than 35. There's 20 plus 25 plus 20 plus 14 plus 6. So it's actually 65. They wanted you to nearly look at that 35 and get confused with that. So option 2 will be the wrong number. Okay, so let's also just look at the others, the interval 39.5 to 59. So they're looking at those two intervals, so those two added together. So 17 plus 25 will give you 42. You could have also said 60 minus 18 will give you 42. So there's, again, two ways to work it out. You could have said the 17 plus the 25, so those two frequencies give you the 42, or you could have said, okay, the cumulative frequency at that point minus the cumulative frequency at that point will also give you 42. And then 94% of the youngsters have a mass of less than 79.5. So there's 79.5, less than that. So 94 of them have a mass or a kilogram of up to 79.5. So that again is the same to say up to 79.5 or less than 79.5. There's 94 of them. And if it was written in a percentage, it would have been 94 divided by 100 to give it into a percentage, which will give us the 94%. Okay, so a frequency table that a lot of work to do with it. It's just not a simple go to that class interval, go to the next class interval and get the answers. You nearly need to complete the table for yourself and then work with it to get to the answers. Okay, so I have also included in the presentation deck that I will share tonight all the ways of how to get to all of those answers, so that you also have that. So when I share tonight, I will share the solution with you so that you can see from just using that small info, we added a bit more. So we added frequency and then we added relative frequency to make it simpler to get to the answers. Okay, then this is another one that they, and I should have just added it to the definition questions nearly. So when you look at the study unit, which one of the following statements again is incorrect with regard to tabular methods for summarizing data? Okay, so again, when you get a question like this, very critical to look at what is in each in each sentence nearly. They love to mix up words into a sentence. So percentage is equal to the relative frequency multiplied by 100. So if we look at one that was 4 out of 100, if we multiply that by 100, we will get 4%. Okay, so that a percentage is equal to the relative frequency multiplied by 100. Cumulative frequency distributions are tabular methods suitable for summarizing quantitative data. Perfect. So we looked at this. It was quantitative data. We can very easily summarize it with the frequency table. Frequency distribution, relative frequency distribution, and percentage frequency distribution are tabular methods suitable for summarizing both qualitative and quantitative data. Okay, so now what we're doing is look at where they ask if you can use it. Now they add frequency distribution, relative frequency, and percentage distribution. So let's look at this, where we now just take out cumulative. So if we had not class intervals, but look at it, they ask quantitative. Okay, so that's not a problem, but let's just focus on frequency, relative, and percentage. So for quantitative, we have it. If we added a percentage, it would not have been a problem. So quantitative, yes, perfect. Let's just look at a qualitative. Okay, so if we had in this table not class intervals, but had it as blue, green, and let's say it's a color of a car, gray. So let's just use those three, and spelling, it's terrible handwriting. But so let's say it was those three. We could still have said, okay, out of the 100 cars, I have 4 that are blue. So if I have 4 out of 100, I have a relative frequency for that cars. So the blue cars have a relative frequency of 0.04. And I can say, well, 4% of my cars are blue. So again, for qualitative data, I could have said, great, relative frequency I can do, normal frequency I can do, and the percentage I can do. So happy that we can do it with qualitative data. Okay, the one thing you cannot do then with qualitative data is where we have cumulative frequency, because it does not make sense to have a cumulative frequency of blue and green cars. Or blue, green, and gray cars, because so when it comes to qualitative, the only thing that we don't or can't do is go the next level and say, well, if you use cumulative, you can get the answer, because we can't. Okay, so that's the big difference between qualitative and quantitative when we're using frequency tables. Okay, and then option 4, let's look at that one, to create a frequency distribution for qualitative. Okay, so that's what we are now have talked about. We first need to define non-overlapping classes by determining the number of classes, class with class limits. Okay, for qualitative data, blue, green, gray cars, you don't have that at all. So we don't have a class interval. We don't have any of that. So that you will need to do when we look at quantitative data, because we will want to know the class interval is from 19.5 to 29.5. There are 7 classes. So that we all do with quantitative data, not with qualitative data. Okay, so that again is the big difference between quantitative and qualitative. Qualitative is color of eyes, color of cars, those kind of things. So there is no class width or number of classes. It basically, how many colors are there that a car can be painted, and you count how many are in each of those categories. There are no class with class limits or any of those. That is only applicable to quantitative data. And then cross-tabulation are suitable for summarizing relationships between two variables. Again, that is correct. And this we will actually cover in study unit 4 again when we look at probabilities. We'll cover it in study unit 10 as well when we look at other variables that we're going to analyze. So when we look at how to summarize two variables, a crosstab is a very nice way of summarizing two data variables, because let's quickly show you guys. So let's say we have just the car, color of your car that somebody is driving, blue and green, and let's throw in another odd variable, color of eyes, which is blue and green. So then if there was 20 people, we will say, okay, 4 people have blue eyes, blue cars, 6 people might be there, 2 might be there, 8 might be there, and in total there's 20 people, and a nice cross tabulation shows us how they are divided into those groups. The cross tabulation links very nicely to probabilities, which we will do in study unit 4, because that is where we might now ask how many people have a blue car and have blue eyes. But that for later on. We're not going to do that at the moment. But again, you can see how it is linked to other study units. So study unit 4 and study unit 10, we are going into analyzing data like that. Okay, then this is from an old exam paper. So you guys can see here they ask randomly, there was 500 votes in the election. Following the frequency distribution, 160 voted ANC, 249 DA, 94 EFF. And this was done in 1 year. They asked the relative frequency of a DA, and when it was still a semester subject, the end of the year, they just thrown it a bit around and asked what was the relative frequency of the EFF. So they just used the same question, changed it a bit. So let's first see, what does relative frequency mean? Do we look at a number? Do we look at a percentage? Do we look at a decimal? So what is relative frequency? And I think, again, if we look at this previous, or where was that table? Okay, so relative frequency is about, it's basically a decimal. So with that in mind, let's just look at this again. So the total sample is 500. So that's not what we're after. The frequency of DA is 246. So that is frequency. We of the relative frequency, so we are looking at what is that fraction. So 246 divided by 500, and that should be, you can see it's old paper-based questions, 0,492. So that would be the relative frequency. Look as well what they do. So just to confuse you, if you set 160 plus 246, there is a number for you, the 406. So if you said that relative frequency means what is the ANC and the DA, there was an answer for you. If you were looking just at the first one and you saw the 160, there's also an answer for you. So again, just be very careful when you guys look at these questions. Sometimes you just see, oh, there's 160, you go for 160. So just be careful, again, what they ask. But here, the focus was on you're getting a frequency distribution, and then we're asking relative frequency, which is that one. If I ask just frequency, it would have been option 3. Okay, so just, again, very careful in how they use the definition to get to the answer. Then, one of the questions also in a previous exam paper, and I just added a bit to it, which of the following is a summarizing data on quantitative variables? So remember, quantitative is when we go back to study unit 1, it's looking at quantity, so it could have been discrete or it could have been continuous. So one that definitely does that is a histogram. Frequency chart not, bar chart not, because we want that is looking at categories, looking at categories, looking at categories. So the only one that is applicable is option 1 when we're looking at quantitative. If I've asked qualitative, then all of the rest, so they could have also asked this question nearly the other way around, is they could have asked which of the following is not a summarizing data on qualitative variable, where you also then only needed to pick the histogram. So again, just be careful of the phrasing of the question. And then the last one for tonight, I thought is also important, is that sometimes they give you a data set and they ask you, and remember, you guys are writing online, so they can't ask you to now rewrite this data set, but they can give you options to say, okay, which one of these are the correct one. So how I again would look at this firstly is to say which of these options is definitely incorrect. So stem and leaf, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so all of that is in order. So that's not a problem. But then if I look at, that's the stem and inside the leaf, okay, 58, 55. So that's not how it should be. It should be the smallest, 55 first, and then 58. Okay, so that is not an option. Okay, then I look at the next one. Okay, now it's 7, 6, 5, 8. So in there, that should also have order. So it should be from 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that is where that stem and leaf is wrong. Okay, when I look 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 8. Okay, cool. So that might be my correct one. Then option 4. Okay, if you look at it, there's no stem. It's only giving me leaves inside of it. So that's not going to work. It should have been 5. And then those, that 5 and that 5 should have been taken away. So that is then what is wrong with option 4. And then if I look at option 5, very similar to option 4, and there's nothing added to it. So option 5 is also wrong. So we only have option 3 that's left, but let's look at it. So the smallest number was 55. Okay, so there's 55. So let's rather underline it. So when you look at the video, so there's 55, at 58, 61, 64, because sometimes they might give you more options like option 3 and just do 1 or 2 number swapping in there. So 272s, there's a 75, there's a 76, there's a 80, 82, 83, and 85. Okay, so it is definitely option 3 that is the correct one. And then just looking at a few things that we will cover in study unit 3, if I wanted to look at the smallest number, that is 55, so that would have been the smallest number. If I look at the maximum number, that will be 85. So if I want to get a range, then next study unit, it will be 85 minus 55 will be 30. And then if I look at something that we call the mode, the number that appears the most in a stem and leaf or in a data set, we can see the only number that appears twice is there in the middle, 72. So that would have been the mode. But that is all things that we will do in the next study unit. So just showing again that from the same stem and leaf, they can now ask you nearly all the questions that's applicable to study unit 3, they can ask in a stem and leaf as well. So that's, again, why something like stem and leaf is so important in the stats module, because they can use it in study unit 2 and 3. So it will not always be just a data set like this that they give you in study unit 3. They might give you a stem and leaf data set, and then you also need to know how to work with that stem and leaf. Okay, so that is it for tonight on study unit 2. So study unit 2, basically looking at ways to visually represent the data. Study unit 3 of next week will be, now we're going to start analyzing the data. So how does this data look like? So going to work out what is the mean or the average. We're going to work out the mode, the medians, standard deviation, variances, all of those things we can actually work out from this one data set. We can look at Q1, Q3. So again, just reiterating the importance of also knowing the stem and leaf for study unit 3. Okay, everyone, that is it for tonight. Yes, there is a question.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good, thank you. Just on page 10, question 2, can I just have the final answer because you mentioned that
Oh,
number 1 is also actually correct.
yes. So number 1 is, well, sorry. So a bar graph can be used for 2 categorical. So because it's cannot, sorry, that's why it is incorrect.
Okay, no problem.
So you can use it for 2 categorical data variables. So that's why number 1 is wrong. Sorry. If it was can, it would have been correct. But because they say cannot, that is why it's incorrect.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Okay, any other questions, anyone else? That is it. And again, recording, as soon as it downloaded, I will put it onto YouTube. I'll share the link on the WhatsApp group and into the My UNISA platform. And when I share that, I will also share with you the PowerPoint that you have that as well. Cool. Thanks, and thanks for the feedback, everyone. Let's have a great evening. And then next week, we will probably have a session next week over the weekend because of all the public holidays next week. I think next week is really an interesting week. There's, I think, 2 or 3 public holidays. So we will plan it nearly that we do it when all those public holidays are done, that nobody gets interrupted or can't be available for the session. Okay, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Cheers.